Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation. And I have a couple special guests here. As you can see, this is not our normal beginning of our show. My regular co-host, Bonnie, is on vacation somewhere, I think in Georgia. And so what we had planned on for this show this week is going to be pushed out till next week. So I want still to start off, of course, thanking our producer and all the guys here, John and Rob and Dylan and Cage, for everything that they do and allowing us to have this platform so that we can bring this information to you and hopefully help others out there that are going through what we're going through, and just to let you know you're not alone. And ways that you can also help us is through our Kindest website. You can make a donation. Right there, the QR code will pop up here in a second, and it'll take you directly to the page. And there's different levels of donation amounts that you can choose from. And if you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, you can choose your own donation amount. And, you know, every little bit helps support what we're trying to do here, not only for us, but to help others. And of course, we have our Art for Hope virtual event still this year. We have our little pop-up events, and October 21st is our Painting with a Purpose, with the Painting with a Twist in Trinity. And let's see, it's October 21st from 7 until 9, so you really need to get registered for that really soon. The image that we're doing is the neon butterfly. It was picked for a couple reasons. A couple of the girls said it's because it's easy. But the real reason is the significance of the butterfly to our purpose, which a lot of people feel it's has a spiritual connection to your loved ones that have passed, much like a lot of people feel the cardinal is when the cardinal shows up. And the dragonfly is also a symbol of love, hope, and change, which is kind of huge within the realm of why we're all here. So I'm going to introduce my guests here. This is my dear friend Teresa Daniels and Kathy Goodman.
Hello.
Both of them. Kathy is actually the chairperson for the Tampa Bay chapter of the Pasco County Out of the Darkness Walk, which is going to take place November 13th.
That's correct. Yep.
Super. And Teresa is on the committee. I show up every once in a while. But we're also going to, the foundation is also going to be there. We're going to have a table there. We have supported the Out of the Darkness Walk since the inception of our foundation for the last 3 years. So before we get into that event in particular, you both are lost survivors. And as much as you feel comfortable, we're going to change this up a little bit. I actually met Teresa a couple years ago. AFSP has a program, and I know I'm not going to do the naming right, but if you've lost someone to suicide, you can contact your local chapter, and they have a program where they can set you up with kind of like a mentor, somebody who has gone through their training and can come and speak to you. You know, someone who knows what you're going through. And I did that. I contacted our Tampa Bay chapter a couple of years ago, but they didn't have anybody for my particular situation because I lost my husband, and there was nobody involved who had that experience in our area. So they sent Teresa, though, and we've become really good friends ever since then. Teresa, you lost your only son, Tristan. So can you tell us a little bit about Tristan and whatever you feel comfortable talking
Yes.
about.
My son Tristan was 18 years old. He was 5 weeks away from graduating from J.W. Mitchell High School. I said he's my only child. And he took his life by firearm on April the 14th, 2014. So in 2 days, it'll be 7.5 years. It probably took us quite a bit to find AFSP. We went through different things at first. We went through hospice, believe it or not. They had a grief counseling for 8 weeks, and so I went through that. And then eventually we found AFSP and connected with them with the walks and started doing the walks. And I also went with the Compassionate Friends for some of the counseling. So it's been a very arduous 7.5 years. It's different every day. You definitely feel like a completely different person. I definitely feel as though when my son died, I died, at least the person that I was.
Oh, most
Yeah,
definitely. I think most people that I've spoken to, we all had that
Yes.
same feeling.
You're changed forever.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the pieces that are left, you try to put something together, and like we're doing now, trying to bring hope and just some comfort to people that are in our situations, letting them know that you're not alone. It's very hard to find people that want to admit that they're in our situation.
Well, there's still such a stigma to suicide.
Yes.
On so many different levels, not only the person who took their life, but towards those of us left behind because of society, what they think.
That's right. You become the elephant in the room, as I often say. And lots of people move away from you, because they just don't know what to do or how to handle you.
Yeah, what to say.
I find a lot of my family tends to try to put the bubble around me and protect me, so they don't always talk about things or bring up things because they're worried that they're going to upset you. And I often tell them, it's not going to get any worse. Whatever happens is not going to be worse than the loss of my child. So,
Well, and I wish people would understand too that talking about our loved ones who we lost to suicide, it doesn't hurt us. If anything, it helps us.
Right.
Because then we know that, they're just not shoving it under the rug. We want to talk about, I can talk about Bobby all day, and I know you can talk about Tristan all day.
absolutely. And I do. Just to myself.
Good.
We're going to talk about something here in a little bit. But
I have about 100 dragonflies named. There he is.
But I want to get also to Kathy. And Kathy, I only met a year or two ago.
Right.
And it was through the Out of the Darkness walk. And you too lost your son, correct?
Yeah, I lost my 17-year-old son, Cody, in 2013. He died by cop. And, it has been an difficult journey. And it's not something you really get over. You always have the heartbreak, but at some point you learn how to manage. And when you're talking about the stigma, that is so real, because I remember right after it happened, the judgment I felt on being a parent. Like, how could you have missed those signs? What were you, doing? And until you're in those shoes, you just don't know, because those signs are so subtle.
Well, and you don't know what those signs are in most cases.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. And my co-host Bonnie and I, throughout the episodes that we've done, we often reference certain grief books and, books on suicide, what we're going through, and I'm getting my squirrel. But it's like, and we've said this often, it's like when a parent loses a child, our society puts on us the stigma, we're supposed to protect our child, and I wasn't able to do that.
Yeah.
But you probably wouldn't have been able to in this situation anyways. But unless, like you said, somebody has gone through something like that, they don't understand. And it's that way with me too. Even my husband and I were together for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
How didn't I know?
I guess you just don't think the person's going to go there.
No.
Their behavior may change, and like I said, there might be very subtle signs, but that's not what you're thinking that they're thinking. And
Right.
so,
Are there any specific signs that you can think of?
yeah, it's, well, earlier in that year, he had a really bad car crash where he killed somebody with his car. And so we know that that was one of the reasons. And as I've read so many books over the years, it's not the only reason.
No.
There were other issues going on. And obviously he had mental health issues. And so it just, like I said, it was very subtle. He did tell his girlfriend at the time that he felt suicidal, and she thought he was joking. And so one of my platforms with working with AFSP is to talk to high school students and just make them realize that 1 minute of intense listening can save a life. Mm-hmm. And just to give them the tools, and that's what's so great about the foundation, wonderful training and educational programs that can go out to the high schools. And so that definitely is something I want to direct my attention to. And I like I said, I read a lot, went to therapists, and I remember Iris Bolton's book, My Son, which is phenomenal. And one of the psychologists in there advised her two things. One, when you have a loss, always keep the communication going with your own family. You really need that, because a lot of times I think you tend to isolate because you don't want to talk about it with your husband or children or whatever. And then the other one I thought that was really interesting is he said, one day you will realize the gift your son gave you. It may not be now, but it will be down the road. And that really stuck with me. And I do tell people in our healing conversations about that excerpt. And the gift, I think, for me was I needed to pivot my life to help others. And it just, and for other people, it'd be different things. But I thought that was an exceptional revelation for me.
Well, and that's really awesome, because all the people that we know and how we've come to where we're at, that's what's happened to us,
Mm-hmm.
In various ways. With Teresa helping us out, helping out AFSP, and I started out helping out AFSP, and then started my own foundation.
Yeah.
Because we needed more. We've talked often with other organizations we've had on here, NAMI, a veterans organization. Not one of us can tackle this. Because like you said, suicide is a very complicated issue.
Mm-hmm.
One incident or one problem typically is not why a person takes their life. It's a catalyst of many things, and then all of a sudden one more, and that's it. Can't do it no more. And that's what makes it so complicated and so hard to decipher and hard to deal with. And everybody's different.
Yeah.
So going with dealing with your own experiences, and that brought you to AFSP. And like I said, when I found out about AFSP, it was about 5 or 6 months after my husband had passed away. And I saw on Facebook that there was an Out of the Dark SWAC here in Pasco County. Mm-hmm. And I contacted a gal. she has moved away since, but my neighbor had a dog, and they were selling the little bandanas, you know. But I couldn't participate that year because I had a broken leg. Because 3 months after my husband died, I severely broke my left leg.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was still on crutches with the Out of the Darkness walk, so I couldn't participate. And then the following year, we did. And actually, our first fundraiser, the following year started the foundation. And our first Art for Hope fundraiser, our very first one, all the money that we raised went to the Tampa chapter for AFSP. And then I was involved for a couple of years. It's kind of been waning a little bit. I do what I can because the foundation starts to take up, more time, but we're always still there to support. We are having the event in person this year.
We are.
So, and it's again going to be at Sims Park, correct?
Correct. Yep, November 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a few modifications. But
Yes, because of the Delta variant, we will encourage masks, but they're not required. We'll have hand sanitizers, disposable gloves, and masks. The registration will be contactless, meaning we will encourage those to pre-register and donate online before getting to the event. If you need to register while you're there, there will be flyers explaining how to do that with barcodes that'll make it easy. Another change is we will not have the T-shirts there. They will be mailed to you after the event.
Okay.
Yeah.
And usually, and so they're not going to be selling any of the other T-shirts at the event either?
I'm not sure about that. Our area director may change that. We're really trying to be safety conscious.
Right.
We don't have as many of the activities, but we still are having a full opening ceremony, which I'm really excited about. And I'm just thrilled to be able to see the community again. I think we need it. We've been in forced isolation for too long. And something like this,
Right.
law survivors, those who are struggling, they really need to be with others.
Well, and especially with COVID-19 has, it's kind of hard to say in a way, but we don't have the statistics yet, but more than likely the death rates have increased during COVID, just from what I'm hearing. Just even here in our county, I mean, I know of several. I know that there's a lot that I haven't heard of. Some people still don't want to talk about it. We lost a Pasco County Park Service personnel in the spring. We lost a sheriff recently.
Yeah.
And teenagers, our teenage rate this year, I think, is going to be higher than last year. And we do need people to come together. And, the more that we do this, the more we can reduce the stigma. Because people need to talk. Like you mentioned, your son's girlfriend, kids will say things. And unless you're tuned in to this life, you don't think that's going to happen. But it is so important to get people of all ages. If anybody said, you're better to err on the side of caution and have somebody be mad at you because maybe you think that they're going to take their life instead of going to a funeral. And I say that to people all the time. I'd rather have a friend mad at me, screaming and yelling at me because maybe I'm so stupid that, how could you think that I would do that? But it could just be that one time that you don't say it. And then it changes your life forever. And it doesn't matter if you're related to that person, you're a friend of that person, or you're a coworker. It's still, they say one suicide death affects on the average 137 to 149 people.
Yeah. Well, I know in the state of Florida, somebody dies by suicide every 2 hours. Every 2 hours. We need to do something, and I know our advocates in Washington are doing their job, and we are going to corporations and training, and we have these walk events. So, our progress is tangible. Our research is unbelievable. We have 43 new studies and so many new programs. So we're making progress, but
We're making progress in a way, but that progress does not show, because there has not in 30 years been 1 year a dip in the suicide rate. It keeps going up. And that's why I feel it takes people like us to be able to talk about it, to be able, to do what we're doing on the show, to do the walks, to do events. And I've said before, because when I first started speaking publicly about my husband, and it was up until the last group I spoke to was the day before everything got shut down with COVID, and I was at a Rotary speaking. But every time I would speak, I could see the changes of the people's faces when they found out what I was going to talk about. And I could feel the energy in the room change, and not in a good way, because so many people, they don't want to hear it. It's too dark, it's too sad, it's too hard. But every single time, at least one person comes up to me and thanks me for talking, thanks me for sharing my story. And at that last one that I did, a gentleman came up to me, and I think it was his son who had taken his life, 15 or 20 years prior to that. He hadn't spoken about it in over 15 years.
yeah, I'm sure as Teresa will tell you as well, that's part of the therapy, is you have to tell your story. And it's very difficult at the beginning, and it doesn't mean we don't cry, we don't feel, we think about our lost ones every single day. And yes, we have triggers, and yes, we cry. But I really think it helps to talk about it. And I remember just filling out application forms. Well, the question is, how many children do you have? And that was a tough one. And sometimes at the beginning I would put one, because I didn't feel like explaining in myself. And then I changed that, because I felt like, my son needs to be recognized whether he's here or not. And so that's what I advocate too in the healing conversations, is recognize your loved one. It's okay, so.
Yeah, my co-host Bonnie, she lost her adult son 6 months after she lost her 14-year-old grandson to suicide. Her son, it was ruled an overdose, but there's some question in there whether it could have been a suicide too. And she has 2 other children, and she does that when people ask her, about her children, and she says she has 3 children. One happens to be in heaven.
Yeah. And it's okay to say that. When I get asked, I'll say I have 2 children, one passed away, and then I'll talk about my daughter, because I feel like that breaks up that tense moment.
Right. For people
so that I have recognized Cody, but at the same time I can talk about my daughter. So.
Right.
Trying to cap on what you were saying too in reference to education. A lot of times, like I said, when we're doing stuff, it's for us, the survivors.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm also passionate about when we're talking about AFSP, things like that, is just the education. Because for me, like you say, part of the experience of somebody that is dealing with suicide ideation or just having those thoughts, it's the coping, and so you don't know when your coping capability is going to be exhausted and you don't have the ability to deal with whatever comes up for you, and then you find yourself in this situation. So one of the things that I actually learned was that the medical profession and things like that, they're supposed to have these checklists and things when you go. The kids go to the doctor to get their physical every year for
Right.
band and for, gym and for tennis and this and that, but no one ever pulls out a form and asks how
Well,
you're doing.
they are
So-
starting to do that now.
But they were supposed to have been doing these all these years. Who knew?
Yeah,
But
it
I
just,
think putting
they
the-
have just started, it's only just begun within the last
Right.
year or two.
But I mean, I think
That's
putting it
insane.
in the hands of, just the educators and the parents and just, clergy, anyone can teach your children how to cope. I mean, when is the last time you asked your person, how are you coping today?
Right.
Or do you feel like your coping is good? Can you handle the things that you're going through? So it's not so much just are you suicidal, but where are you? Where are you in your development? I mean, if somebody had asked me that about my son, I would not have had an answer for them, or to tell them I've never asked him that. Or when you say to somebody, why don't you want to live? That's a good question. Do you feel like you don't want to live? Do you feel like you're tired of living?
Yeah.
Do you feel like living is becoming overwhelming? I mean, and that's not something that anyone ever asks you or that you even check in on yourself about. Like I said, so now, after we're
Yeah.
survivors, we've learned,
Right.
like you said, am I being triggered? I don't go to graduations. My son was 5 weeks away from a graduation. We went to that graduation, by the way. I had his little graduation plaque on the thing. I've got his little
Good.
pictures, and he never graduated.
Yeah.
But as a result, I can't go to another one.
Right.
So just things like that where you just want the people to understand, the kids to understand, and that's something we can teach them from a young age. If you're not having a good day, how can we get you to challenge yourself to make yourself feel better?
Right.
Because really they're alone. My son took his life. There was nobody there. People always say, well, you're not alone. But you are when the act is occurring.
Yeah.
So if you just have a pause or some kind of thing in between the act and your thoughts, you could save your own life. And oftentimes we talk about that. The person has to be willing to save their own life as well.
That's true because, and we talked about it with the incident with my husband, and it's how, and I've heard other stories. If a person is intent on taking their life,
They're going to go.
they're going to do it. You may stop them at that one instant. My sister-in-law, she was going to stop by our house that morning, and she drives by the street, or used to, quite often, and she was just on autopilot and just went home and thought, well, I'll stop by another day. And the person that she speaks to told her that because she really beat herself up about it, that you may have stopped him that day, but if he was intent on doing it would have happened another day. And
that happened with us too. My son actually took his life at Steve's house, and a week before that, he was actually working, had gotten a job, a night job, and he was really struggling with, staying up on the weekends, overnight, doing all the packing, and then waking up to go to school on Mondays. So he would skip a couple of Mondays, and we were kind of like, okay, you can't skip
Yeah.
school, you're 5 weeks away, and he went to Steve's house one Monday morning the week before, and the neighbor actually, saw his car pull in, and he was like,
That's kind of,
you're supposed to be in school. Why are you here? So he went next door and he talked to Tristan, and and of course Tristan left and came back home. But the very next week, he went back. He went back and he took his life. But like you say, I've heard many stories where people said they postponed it. And so some of those things, if they're masking, if they're trying to pretend that everything's okay, I'm good, I can handle everything, and you don't know, they're not gonna present those signs necessarily that we're always talking about.
Yeah.
They're going to hide that because they want what they want.
yeah.
And I think what's promising is the initiative that AFSP has by 2025 is to reduce the suicidal rate 20%. But one of the areas that they're going to be concentrating on is the healthcare industry. And there's some statistic where a lot of the suicidal individuals will have seen their doctor that week, Or they'll fill out one of those forms that say if you're depressed with the smiley face and the scale, and they lie. And so I think that's part of the sector that we really need to educate and to really pay attention to mental health issues. It's not just looking at your clipboard and passing the person off. It's listening, really listening.
Right. And a lot of the emergency rooms now, they have stuff that they're supposed to ask. And it doesn't matter how many times you end up in the ER, you're going to be asked that. A friend of mine, she is going through, they just went through breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And every time she goes to a doctor's appointment, there's two different forms that they ask the questions. And she told me a couple weeks ago that every time she goes to a doctor's appointment, there's mental health questions that they have to ask her.
That's good.
And I was glad to hear that, because I had heard through some other organizations that I've been kind of involved with, or seminars and meetings, that it is really beginning to be pushed out to your primary care doctors, the hospitals, like I said, the ERs, a lot more. They're doing a little bit better on trying to get into the schools. The schools are the schools are the hard one. But I think they're really starting to open up a little bit more and realize that, you know, this is what is really needed, because they're seeing it now more often. Mm-hmm. And it's being brought to the forefront with the mental health issues that are plaguing our society right now. And in all reality, suicide is an epidemic in our country.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and hiding it, not talking about it. I mean, I hear of some in our community, and the people or the families involved, they won't talk about it. They won't acknowledge it. And that's a really hard way to live. You know, I don't know. You participated last year in the walk, which was virtual.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did that go? How did that work? Because I saw your little pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, we actually, believe it or not, we went in our neighborhood, and I'm like, my lady over here, Kathy, she took her dog. I couldn't take my dog. He would not work out on the virtual event. But we actually did go in our neighborhood, and very bizarre story, but I actually had a female moment and needed to find the ladies' room, and there was this lady standing out there with her dog, and I said, "Excuse me." And believe it or not, we actually went inside, and she was a survivor. She was an attempter. And she saw our sign. She came over to us and was just warm and engaging. You know, so, I mean, but people, you know, as they went down the road, you know, they would honk their horns, or they would, you know, say thank you. When we came back into our subdivision, some of my neighbors, you know, were totally unaware. And so everybody saw the big sign, and, you know, they were like, oh my goodness, you know, we're so sorry. And so now we have people that want to get involved and want to walk with us, you know, possibly donate. So we were allowed to put a sign out in our complex, you know, promoting the walk, you know, so they kind of know. I mean, we wear our shirts, wear my shirt, except for today. I think I have like 7 or 8 of those shirts, and I wear them all the time. And so people are just, you know,
I know. I have a bunch of those. I've got like one whole drawer that is just
me too.
T-shirts. From AFSP, and now getting our collection going.
Yes, you know, we wear them out, and we do. Like, I actually just recently started putting stuff in my purse, you know, so that you can have to hand out, because you just never know where people are.
Yeah, I have that
But
too.
the virtual walk, it was good. It was really good. It was definitely different. Like you said, a little bit more lonely, you know, because you're kind of by yourself. It went a lot quicker, you know. You get home, and you know, I was like, 2 miles.
You did 2 miles? I didn't. Good for
2
you.
miles in like 45 minutes.
Where did you do your walk, Kathy?
Well, we were renting in Hernando Beach, so it was really nice along the water, but that's what I did, just in the complex. And it was a good opportunity to take my dog, because there's no way I can take that neurotic dog physically to the walk, so that worked out well.
That's cute.
The walk around Sims Park is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
They've done some
really
remodeling
nice.
there too. So.
Yeah, they have. I was at an event there, I don't know, a couple months ago, and it was real nice. Even though it was like almost the middle of summer, I was under a shade tree, and it was nice. It's a nice venue to be at. Are we gonna have the beads?
Yes, we will have the honor beads, and Teresa's going to speak to that in the opening ceremony. We're going to space them out. It's just that distancing thing
Right.
again. But we're excited because our guest speaker is going to be wearing the silver bead, which represents the loss of military and a first responder. And we're excited because it's Patrick Bradley, who is a Vietnam veteran and was affected by suicide 4 different times in his life, and decided to work with veterans with PTSD through Birds of Prey. And so it's just a program that he has, and we're excited to have him and a bald eagle named Thunder.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. My first husband actually was a Vietnam veteran.
oh, wow.
So, well, that's good. I'm looking forward to it this year.
We need it.
We do need it. The event, well, by the time this airs, it'll be over with. We're doing a 5K out in Dade City for Parks and Rec, and they put that together in honor of their coworker that they lost.
Oh, that's good.
And so that's going to be nice. I got a hold of getting a hold of NAMI to see if they're going to be there. Last time I talked to Debbie, they weren't so sure. They were having a meeting, and they weren't so sure that they could participate because of COVID still. And so I told her that I'm waiting for her email to come back, that I'll come get your literature if you can't be there, so we'll have it there at the table. We're going to have AFSP's literature at our
thank
table,
you.
along with Tara sent me the wristbands. So we have a bunch of the wristbands to give out. I keep meaning to get a bunch of those beads to be at events that we do, and I just haven't done it yet. So I was hoping.
Take some when you're there.
I always collect my red bead.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
do you remember what each of the colors stand for?
Well, we know white
White
is
is
loss of a child.
And red is loss of a spouse or partner.
Yeah. Blue supports the cause. I need my little sheet.
I know. I was gonna get that ready too, and I totally ran out of time. I'll have that for.
It's on our website too.
Yeah, I'll make something up for our next show, because we'll have this. Let's be honest, I don't know. Not quite a month, maybe 3 weeks when this airs.
Okay.
For the show, so we could still get out the information. I was gonna bring one of the yard signs that you gave me, and I had taken it out. Actually, I had taken one out. I had put it together, and Rob, if you could pull up the picture of the foundation flag. I did this morning, like last minute.
There you
There,
go.
it's out. So I was gonna.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna bring the sign, but then I thought, oh, it's too cumbersome, and I hadn't put the other one together yet. So I was just gonna bring the sign itself, not the
Right.
stand. I get in my truck, and I'm like a block away from here, and I'm like, no sign, no phone. That's how you can get a hold. I'll get a hold of it.
Yeah, listen though.
That's all right.
It's charging in my bedroom, but then I was like, where's the sign? And I was like, well, I do have the pictures.
Yeah.
So we'll have those out on our street. My street is a really busy street, and So we'll have the walk signs out there, and then during the day, when I'm going to be around, then I'll have the foundation flag out there. I had the foundation flag on our flagpole,
Wow.
but it's a really heavy flag. It's double-sided,
Oh.
so it doesn't blow in the wind, like unless it's super, super windy. It just like,
Hangs
hangs there,
straight.
so you can't even see
Like-
what it says.
Like the flag on the moon type of thing?
It just, you can't read it unless, I mean, the American flag will blow, and the foundation flag just kind of, but it's so heavy. I should have got just a single-sided. So I had that flagpole holder in that tree for the gallery because you know how coming out to my house, like especially the first time,
Yes.
you miss the driveway. So I
Almost
would
every
put
single
a flag out there to alert people, turn here. So I was like, maybe I can put the foundation flag out there. And so I'll put it out there a little bit during the day, and then I got another thing when I redo the front office for the house, then it'll hang like at the very front there. But so I was like, put the flag out there, put the walk sign out there, and then at the other driveway it'll be the other walk sign. Figure it out.
It'll work out. It'll all work out.
Figure
As long
it
as I can
out.
see it.
Yeah, so, and we've put out walk signs every year, that we've been involved, because like I said, our street is really busy.
Yeah.
And actually, we're going to have, I'm hoping, I'll wait till after this weekend, I'll put those out after this weekend, and have the red, white, and back to blue
Okay.
signs out for Saturday night. So when this airs at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, afterwards, by 8 o'clock, you still have 2 hours you could go Gill Dogs for red, white, and back to blue. And there'll be music until the end, till 10 o'clock. So you can do that too. Just trying to get all this stuff in is just like so
funny.
crazy, so crazy.
Plug here, plug there.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. It's hard. They had. Was it this past weekend? St. Pete had their walk,
Yes, they did very well.
They've got
And
over
that's
80,000.
Good turnout.
Where was that at the
Vinoy Park.
Vinoy Park?
Yeah. Teresa, you went, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
You went?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't even know about it until I saw the stuff on the pictures posted on
Yeah.
Facebook afterwards.
Yeah, it was very surprising. Like I said, it was a nice group of people there. I was very happy about that. That there's more people than I thought were going to be there, and we had teams and quite a few teams, and
Yeah,
they did really
good.
well. So it was a beautiful event. The noise always.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really nice park.
Yeah.
Around those boats.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Now, do you know if they've scheduled the Tampa walk?
I think it's
December 4th.
December 4th. Okay.
That's right. Usually theirs is in December.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they
And
do
ours-
one each month.
And Pasco's usually October.
Right. This year you moved it to November.
We moved it to November, hoping that more and more people would have the shot by then because we just weren't sure. But also, we're hoping it's a little cooler
Right.
in a monthth's time. So,
And then, of course, you have the rain, because like I said, the poor people at the St.
Yeah.
Petersburg walk, they set up everything in the rain. It was pouring.
Oh, was
And,
it really?
yes. And so, but by the time we got there, at
Oh, the pictures
9
looked,
a.m.,
it was all nice. and
Yeah.
it was dry. It was
Oh,
dry. There was
yeah.
a little bit of rain when it first started, but then it dried up and just became scorching.
yeah.
So.
Well, and I
Florida.
spoke with Tara,
beautiful.
and I
Good.
think that the Pasco walk might be permanently moved to November.
I'm hoping
The
that.
second week.
I-
It's the second week. in
Yeah, it's the
November, right?
13th, so
Second
we'll see how it is this year. I think it makes sense to do, because you have St. Pete October, Pasco November,
Right.
and then Tampa December, I think.
Right,
it-
because St. Pete was always the week right before us. And then
Yeah,
us, and then Tampa
Yeah.
was.
And it gives people a chance to do multiples. Like I said, I usually go and walk for all three. I mean, obviously, at Sims, I'll be working
Yeah.
first, but then we still do the walk. So it's a nice break. You get a full month. A lot of times people were going on vacation or they were
Yeah.
away, so they couldn't make all the walks. So I think having them one each month gives you a little bit of time in between so that you can try to go to, more than one.
Yeah, I wish I would have known about that one in the Manoa. I would have loved to have driven down there for that. Because actually, I ended up. What was I doing Saturday? I went
You're
to.
always busy.
I went to that art show, or it wasn't like an art show. It was a festival in Safety Harbor. I got my dragonfly.
There you go.
Love Safety Harbor.
Yeah, they had a really nice outdoor show down on Main Street, and actually one of our main sponsors. There's our Art for Hope 9 Round. She had a tent down there, so I took a bunch of these cards for Art for Hope down there. And I went down actually with the intention of buying a piece of art, and I think I mentioned it last week. My husband and I, we collected dragons, like pewter dragons. But actually, the second piece of artwork that we ever purchased, because I've been in the art industry for a million years, was and I found out the artist is actually from Tampa, and I haven't got a hold of him yet. It's just so weird. So it's a stained glass with hand-carved wood, and it's dragon flying.
Wow.
And on top of a mountain is a castle. And he hand-carved the frame that it's on. And I was cleaning my main living room last weekend, and I took it off the wall to clean it, and I'm looking on the back of it. And I'm looking at the artist, it's been up there for off and on, between cleanings, and I've never looked at the back to remember who the artist was, because we bought it down in Boca Raton. The artist is from here in Tampa.
Like, you've got to go to his
And
place.
so now it's like, well, I did try and call him the next afternoon, but I didn't get through to anybody, so I still have to do that. But yeah, it was really kind of weird. So I was intent on doing something with a dragon. And then when I was walking into the show, I saw this guy with metal and glass art, and he had a couple of dragonflies there, and I was like, oh, that's very nice. Well, let me go see the rest of it. So I went and did what I was supposed to do, and come walking back, and so I ended up getting the dragonfly, which was appropriate with our dragonfly painting coming up, and I was gonna hang it in the front of the house where the foundation office was, but I still have to paint that building, paint the house. But the cottage studio gallery, I've already painted that. So I found a spot where when I walk out the side door to either go outside or to walk 30 feet to go to work, the dragonfly is right there. It looks really good on my yellow building.
And it's nice.
So, so stuff like that. It's, you gotta do things, and I know that you do this too, to do things that you used to do, or do things in memory of, Tristan. And
Yes.
you and Steve actually, don't you take special vacations?
We do. On his anniversaries, it's definitely better not to necessarily stay here. So we tend to try to find some place to go. And that way it keeps your mind busy, because you don't know where you are and you're driving and you have to pay attention. So it kind of, keeps you focused. And then, of course, on the day of, on the 14th, then we try to do something to honor him, wherever we are. So.
How about you, Kathy?
Well, Cody was cremated, so we lived in the Panhandle at the time, so we put his ashes in the bay. And so it's tough because he passed away December 24th. But we have a ceremony too where we place a rose in the bay. But yeah, it's a strange time of the year because we do take that time on that day to remember him, but we have to remember that we also have a daughter, and she has her life, and we want to be a part of it. So it's almost like we pivot on the 25th, and that's okay. And that's okay to do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, people, and like it's, everybody handles their situation differently, and you have to handle it what is best for you and what's healthy for you and your family. And especially, when you have other children or family members. With us, actually, I think I've kind of learned 5.5 years down the road, I have to take the month of April off.
Yeah, good.
Because I just, every year I've tried to do stuff, and I just can't. you know.
And that's okay.
Exactly.
Bobby's Day is April 8th, and and April is an awful month for us because
Awful.
it's, I know Tristan was lost. It's April 1st was a day that we moved into our home.
Oh, wow.
We got married there.
Oh,
And Bobby
wow.
died there,
Oh.
April 8th. Both of his parents, they passed away in April.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they lived a long life. I mean, we were really fortunate with his parents, but even just with Bobby alone, it's just like this year I was like, finally, I'm like, you know what? I have to take the month of April off. I just can't. And whether I go anywhere or do anything or not doesn't really matter. But as far as committing to work, foundation stuff, yeah, I can do it. Work. And
Yeah, I have to have at least that week off, like I said, because I work in customer service, and so you can get really quick-tempered when,
Sure.
and it's not their fault, of course, but you just can't manage. I find that I can't manage, during that week.
I wouldn't
so,
be able to manage normally.
Yeah, that's so that week
I know how I can be
it's a
dealing
lot.
with customer service. No thanks. No thanks. But my sister-in-law, we started, my husband's youngest sister, we have a garden that we put together around this oak tree that's in between the house and the cottage. And so the last couple of years, on that day, she comes over and we
Oh.
refresh his garden.
Wonderful.
And it makes all of it. She's the only one with, one year my great nephew was in town and he helped us. And he's since moved back, so hopefully he'll maybe be able to participate again next year when we do it. So that's that's one thing that we do. But yeah, with me, and with, I'm sure a lot of us, all those days are all spread out because you have their death date, their birthday, you got the holidays, and it's all just runs together and it's hard. But doing these events that we're doing
Yeah.
shows that we're not alone in this journey,
Right.
right? And everybody can be there to help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're a lost survivor, if you have those intentions,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing, we need to do is just to be more aware and listen to people and be kinder to people
Mm-hmm.
so that they don't feel like they're alone and they're just dealing with this alone. Whether you're thinking about it, you have the ideation, or you're a lost survivor. Because lost survivors are at a 400 times greater risk for suicide than the general public.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to add to that.
No.
That's why we're all doing what we're doing, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and I think that's why the walks are so important.
Yes.
Because people can go there and look around and say, oh, there are also others suffering or lost loved one, or you're not alone. And so whenever somebody asks me if they should go, they don't know if they can handle it. And I said, decide on that day. But I recommend that you do go because you're going to be surprised how many people understand what you're going through.
And that's one good thing about the beads, because you can see immediately who somebody lost, and you can identify with that person without even having to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually happened to Steve and I when we were at the Stobbs Walk before it went virtual, so several years ago, maybe in 2019. And, a woman just came up to us, and she had the white on too, and just started talking, and, so like I said, and we got her information, she got our information. So it's not just seeing that, hey, there's lots of people here and we're not the only ones, but sometimes you can connect, you can make a connection and be there for that person. Because one of the things I've definitely found is it's not just saying, oh, I'm not alone, but it's being able to talk with people who are in your situation, and you can really talk, not just kind of dance around everything. We can talk about our deceased person without having that that you
Yeah.
have with everybody else.
Right.
So that's helpful to me as well, to have a family of survivors that we can speak honestly and,
Yeah,
and
no judgment.
openly with no judgment.
With no
You
judgment.
know, and speak our loved one's name without,
And not have the
feeling the
stigma
awkwardness.
that is
That's right.
out there.
That's right.
Well, I certainly want to thank you ladies for coming on and sharing your stories and talking about the foundation and the walk. And again, the Pasco Out of the Darkness walk is November 13th. I have a hard time doing that because it's always been October. November 13th. And what time does it start?
Well, the opening ceremony is at 9:30, but registration 8 to 9.
8 to 9.
People usually will go there in
Okay.
that time frame.
Right.
Walk
Okay.
starts at 10.
Okay, the walk starts at 10, registration between 8 and 9, Saturday, November 13th at Sims Park in downtown Newport Richey.
Correct.
All righty.
Yeah.
So, again, we're out of time, but, we have these hotline numbers. If Rob could put them up on the screen, please put these numbers in your phone, have them available, because you never know when someone is going to need them.
Right.
And it could just save one person's life.
And thank you so much for having us on here.
Well,
We
I'm glad
really
that you guys
appreciate
can
it.
do it.
Yeah.
I want to support you guys, and you guys support us.
That's right.
So we always end the show with, remember, there's always hope. Thank you.